The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting Corporation.
Welcome to your Health and Wellness Hour, sponsored by Luminosity Wellness Center here in Las Vegas. Coming to you from the studios of Worldwide Digital Broadcasting. Our goal is to incite and ignite all your senses and curiosities. So sit back, relax, open your mind and your heart, and enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Health and Wellness Hour. My name is Abra McGrath, and I'm here today with a very special guest. Here at the Wellness Center, we try to bring up topics that you can integrate into a healthy daily practice. That's what we're all about here, is just helping people stop, smell the roses, and do something for their health. My latest primary focus has been about headspace. And I'm a firm believer, what you put in your body, it makes you who you are. So not only are we are what we eat, but we are what we read, what we watch, what we fill our subconscious with. And so today is truly about headspace and how to feed it in a healthy manner. So today our wonderful guest that has agreed to be on my show, yay, is Izaac Baron. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I've been practicing it all week. The fifth, which is a very bold and wonderful name, by the way. I love it. Today we're talking to Izaac. He's the beautiful mind behind the thought-provoking street art, Recycled Propaganda, where Izaac takes reclaimed materials, recycles them into visual statements. Is that a good way to put it, Izaac?
Yeah, I think I recycle all of my visuals in one way or another. The physical work is physically made out of recycled materials, but any of the visual stuff I put together, whether it be digital or physical, has been recycled from somewhere, I suppose. The sense of anything in the visual art field actually being original, I'm not sure is true anymore. I think we're past postmodernism. Everything's been done. The sooner all the artists can get over that fact, the more we can just get on with making stuff. Don't Google it if you have an idea, just make it. Someone's definitely done it somewhere.
Absolutely. So that goes with your concepts, right? You separating your concept from yourself.
Correct. The reason I work under Recycled Propaganda is because I don't want people to see me and not the art. I feel like that it gives a degree of separation, and which also helps me in terms of receiving feedback, because then if I receive positive feedback, it doesn't inflate my ego as much as it would if it was my name. And the same for negative feedback. I feel like it provides a little bit of a shield and distance from my work, where I can still be a human and be an art, and it doesn't gradually consume me.
And people it's not a personal attack. They're not nitpicking you. You're not having to prove yourself.
Correct. And I think criticism of art is never really a personal attack, but when people work under their own name, I think it's impossible to separate the criticism. So it definitely helps me be able to listen to it and absorb it rather than just react from it.
So can you tell us about the conception of Recycled Propaganda?
So I moved to America 5 years ago, and I lived here for about a year, and I was doing full-time graphic design in one of the casinos, and I really loved it.
And you came here because of your sister, correct?
My sister's lived here,
cool.
Probably 12 years now.
Oh, wow.
My dad is from America. He's from Denver.
Oh, is he?
So
Denver, cool.
Yeah, so I kind of spent summers there. So I lived here a year, and my job went to part-time, and I always sort of, growing up, had that yearning to do something that I deemed significant, or that I deemed would make a difference in the world. And it kind of naturally fell to art. I come from an art background. I have an art education. My mum's an art teacher, so I think everybody tries to force themselves into a box that sometimes doesn't fit. Just like know what you want to achieve, know your skill sets, and then try and tie them in. And it did really happen quite organically. I just started making stuff, started displaying it First Friday, and that was 4 and a bit years ago, and doing it full time and haven't really looked back too much.
Did you do any street art at the time, like out and about?
They both started concurrently.
Oh, really?
So it wasn't like I was underground and then I exposed myself. It was all about the visual to me, whether it's on a t-shirt, on a sticker, on a wheat paste, a mural, a piece of art in your home. It sort of just hits different audiences, and separating them too much maybe isn't helpful. But as soon as I came up with the idea and started producing, then all of those things sort of started concurrently.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm not very good at compartmentalizing different
stuff.
Being like, I'm just doing like galleries and I'm just like, do everything.
Right.
Let's just do everything. See what works, see what you enjoy, see what, because the piece of art works differently where it is as well. It does have a different meaning if it's on a person.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's way more controversial to wear something than it would be to put it up, and vice versa. And sometimes it can really elicit a different thought depending on the context in which you see it. And I really like that as well. I like the fact that you can do gallery stuff and people can see it in a gallery, because and the same thing you could see on the street, there's a sense of irony within that as well. And I think certain people will notice one of them and won't notice the other. Maybe certain people wouldn't look at stuff in a gallery but would on the street, or would on a t-shirt, and vice versa.
Wouldn't on the street because it's just maybe clutter, graffiti
it's just noise,
to them or something.
And they're not, people need to be like prepared, like, okay, I'm going into a situation where I'm going to look at art. Let's like mentally prepare myself. I don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But the idea for me is just to sort of proliferate the message out there in any means possible, and just try and get people's eyes on it. And then, like you were saying at the beginning, I thought that was really pertinent. We are what we consume, and that can be food, water, actual physical stuff, but we're consuming with our eyes and with our ears all the time as well, and people don't appreciate the significance that can have on our own wellness, our own mental health, our social health. So I'm kind of want to be food for the eyes, I guess.
Awesome. I read in all sorts of headlines about you is that it's thought-provoking. And so what more are you trying to provoke? Are you trying to provoke people to think a different way, to just see it a different way, or to actually take action and do something different?
I honestly am not trying to get people to think a certain way. I really am not. And a lot of people would argue with that. I just want people to think. I don't care what you think, just like use your brain and think.
Rad. Coming to Vegas, was that like an obstacle? Like, does that happen a lot? Like, or in America in general? Did you find that it was different?
I think people in America generally are a lot more ignorant to issues, but they're a lot more like, they're curious. Like, people want to know about stuff,
and they want to have a stance on something. They want to like believe in something.
Correct. And I think sometimes that is the inhibitor. The people are so desperate to like cling on and like believe something that they can't critically analyze stuff and make their own mind up. And if you're always going down the road of like, I need to pluck certain thoughts from certain things to make my own thoughts, it's just
to define myself.
It's a losing battle. You just have to teach yourself how to think, and then whatever issue is presented to you, you can be like, okay, well, let's see this side of it, let's see this side of it, or just
discernment is a problem, you think? Discerning what's good for us? Or
I think just and maybe it's the education system, and I don't think it's that much different in the UK. We're taught what to think more than how to think too much.
The sheeple.
Yeah, well, and it's too much of a slippery slope, because there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
You cannot learn everything. But if you learn what is good information and what isn't, and like farce it in your mind and like come up with your own opinion, I think that would be much more useful societally. Because I think if we're taught what to think, we're generally divided. we're always like, you believe this or you believe that. Like, even with stuff that I'm truly believing, like you're a vegan or you're a meat eater. But is that useful? Is that really a good way to get people to stop eating meat? No, we need to like have actual conversation, understand why people believe the things that they believe and accept it, and present our side of it and our facts and our sort of reality,
and learn the healthy factors that come out of all of those
things.
And
it can be an iterative thing. And the thing that shocked me about moving to America was how things aren't really that grey. It is black and white. It is like, you believe in this or this, you're Republican or you're Democrat. Well, wait a second, like, who really believes everything that Republicans believe or everything that the Democrats believe? But you see it now in the left, like you have a Republican president, so everybody jumps on board with all the Democratic things. Well, you know, certain things Trump has a point, like there's certain but you're blinded by like your hate for him, that everything he says must be bad,
right?
And it reduces the argument down to just side taking. And I think it's kind of purposeful from the government, because really, if we're divided, we're easier to submit if we're fighting amongst ourselves, you know.
Absolutely.
So I think if we really like start to appreciate that everybody believes stuff just based on where they grew up and the experiences they had, and just accept that rather than try and change that and take it on board to iterate your view, I think we could all like live a little bit more of a tolerant, you know, life, and everyone could get on a little bit better.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I often think is, do you want everybody to agree with you?
No.
So like, why is everyone obsessed with trying to get everyone to agree with them? I want everyone to disagree with me. It's much more
spark
exciting.
something in me.
Yeah, like
right?
argue,
Make
like
me
comment
get
negative
heated
stuff.
About that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally cool.
And that, I don't know.
Because we're not gladiators anymore. We don't get out there. I mean, unless you're like UFC or something, we're not out there like physically doing that. So we have to combat in some ways. And like you said, people just pick sides because they want something to believe in. They want something to back. They want to have something heated to talk about. So I guess with this awareness, there's a responsibility, though. You know, once people start getting aware, and there's a responsibility for them to do something about it. Has this type of art like changed anything? I'm sure it's changed many things, because you seem to see from so many different perspectives. I mean, that's what you kind of get off on, is like all these different perspectives. Like, well, how did that perspective come about? You know, and you try to like, seems like that's a puzzle and an enigma.
Well, I think it's taught me that like really, being an artist is just about being an observer. It's just about observing society and commenting on it, or observing ourselves and commenting on it. And I've just become better at that. The longer I'm doing it, the better I am at like trying to dissect stuff unemotionally and really try and figure out what the heck's going on. And I don't know. Some people look at my art and think maybe that like I'm an angry or frustrated individual, but I'm really the opposite. Maybe like it's my catharsis. I get it all out in my art, and in reality,
did you start out that way? Come on.
I've always been happy. In high school, I won like the Chief of Cheer award.
Oh, that's
I was
awesome.
Always
Chief of Cheer.
Chief of Cheer, yeah, they have that. And
yeah, but it's usually the ones that are unassuming that you like gotta look out for, right?
I mean, maybe that's how I get away. But I don't think that knowing stuff, and I'm not sure if this is what you're saying, knowing stuff makes you automatically feel uninspired about the world. And I think I almost, when I look at it, have the opposite bias. So if you think about my work at a gallery, or even digitally or in real life, digitally is another thing. We'll come on to the whole digital thing later. But you guys are walking by the gallery or my booth and you see it and you're like, oh, that's really cool. So you go in and we engage in a dialogue. So I've already sort of gentrified or like screened who's coming into my booth.
Right.
So I almost see the most
True.
Positive side of reality, because everybody's like, man, why
doesn't you're attracting who you are.
Exactly. Why doesn't everybody think this? And I'm like, well, I see a lot of people who are like totally on the same page as me.
Oh, wow.
So like I have a very positive view of you know, the country as a whole,
and Vegas probably
really positive
yeah
view. Whereas other people maybe need to look at like where they work and who they're, I don't know, interacting with. Like if you worked at like a fast food place, of course you're going to hate life because everyone that comes in's a dick. Like,
and you're not getting sustenance. You're not actually feeding yourself. You're giving your soul
everybody
away
that's
every
in
day.
the line is poorly, like, you know. It's
angry liver, I call it. Angry liver,
so they're gonna
sad
be,
kidneys.
So I have a like maybe a skewed positive view of the world, which I sometimes think.
That was the first part of my question, and then the second part is like, what in your lifestyle, like on the daily, have you converted to do differently? Like your dollar, where you spend your dollars, like has that changed?
I think outside of my art, moving to America has made me invest and spend a lot more money on health and take more responsibility on health. So I spend a lot of money on, you know, good food and organic teas and stuff like that. I think the main lifestyle difference for me is I found when I was working, your brain is just occupied doing something most of the time for somebody else.
Yes.
And now, just by the nature of what my job is, I spend a lot of time thinking, like too much time.
Right. That was
sometimes.
My next question, actually.
Well, I mean, is there such thing as thinking too much? Maybe not.
But in your
when
own
it's like,
head sometimes.
Yeah, and that's why I like doing the social stuff, and because I feel like when you have conversations and bounce ideas off other people, you can sort of figure stuff out within your own mind a little bit better. So I definitely dedicate more time to like just trying to like learn, I guess, because I've become like mildly obsessed with just learning about stuff, especially like history. And it did strike me quite heavily when I moved here how no one's that aware of American history, and I think it's kind of for a reason, because
there's a lot of ugly that we don't want to admit to.
And if we learn from history, we really the overall lesson is like the ruling class doesn't have our best interest at heart. Right. That's anything you watch is like they weren't out for us, but we still kind of haven't figured that out, because what happens if we figure that out? We do need some sort of ruling class, or maybe we don't, but I would argue there has to be some form of government.
Structure, right.
So I think if everybody just learnt a little bit more about history rather than current affairs, I think we would be in a little bit more of an informed position to make educated decisions. Because
you can notice the patterns.
Yeah, you can like zoom out a little bit. Yeah. And if you just watch news, it's nothing. Like the Trump-Russia thing, that's been a story for like 6 months. And it's
sickening, isn't it?
You could pull the headline out and wind the clock back 6 months ago and play the radio. So why not?
And someone's blaming someone, and the other one's
just wait until everything happens and then tell us. Why are you telling us the stuff that we might be, or it's just conjecture, and it doesn't help because there's no like useful debate around it. It's always just like they're wrong, they're right, or like there's some sort of bias towards it.
So speaking of history, I had this awesome epiphany yesterday that
sounds fun.
It was euphoric. I was thinking about Abraham Lincoln, FDR, JFK, and even Ronald Reagan, who was a celebrity. You know, I don't typically get political on my shows. I usually tend to be, you know, metaphysical or like just, you know, meditative, try to, you know, whatever. But the whole thing with the history is I was listening to the radio on the way to work, and I heard of Trump tweeting. Okay, first thing. And every time,
same as every day, right? It's like Groundhog Day. You turn the radio and you're like,
it's like he's
Trump
on the
tweeted.
shitter. He's on the shitter in the morning and he's ranting.
Well, and isn't the worst part about it that that's our news?
Yes,
we have Twitter.
This is what
I
I'm
can
saying.
fucking look if
so
Trump's
my
tweeted.
Epiphany, after watching all of your art and watching Banksy and a bunch of different cool street artists, was I imagined not only were our presidents rolling and turning in their graves, but they were on the shitter, and they were throwing Tweety Bird out the window every morning with like little notes in their mouth.
Yeah, like Abraham Lincoln's just like writing an angry little fucking, and then he gets a pigeon and like straps it to it and throws out the window.
This was my vision. I was like, thank you,
Probably
Isaac,
happened,
dude.
yeah.
Like, thank you. Yes, and because it's so surreal that is what we consider professionalism. Like, why is this okay? Who says that's okay that social media can be used as talking about transgender or military issues or sensitive things?
Well, and I
that
think
really
the sad part is it's happening because we allow it and we feed into it. Like, go outside, there's tons of stuff happening every day. There's cool art, there's cool music. That's not in the news. Like, all the positive stuff isn't there because humans by nature grasp onto negativity and doubt just because that's how we didn't starve to death. We were like, there's not enough food, we should like look out. So we like gravitate towards these like, North Korea's going to send a nuke over because it's what we want to hear. And in reality, my experience in the world is so positive, but on the screen is so negative. And I wish more people were aware of that and just there's some disconnect. Then you have to ask yourself, is that disconnect like actually like formulated, or is there a kind of conspiracy to do that? Because the more time we're spent focusing on like the division and the negativity, and he's the perfect president for that. It's easy. You don't even have to make stuff up.
No, I was thinking this is your job security right here. It's like all this material every day too.
And honestly, it's I feel like since Trump's been elected, I've sold more art. I have.
Absolutely.
But a lot of the stuff I made before he was president, and it's just very odd to sort of see that shift like physically on the left. From
a reality TV show to this being our reality?
Well, to me, the president is just the president. It's how we react to it that is the character of the country. And the reaction of the left is the most upsetting thing from my perspective of his presidency. That we are accusatory and we are, egotistical within our viewpoints, and we don't know how to like put ourselves in someone else's shoes. All the things that we prided ourselves on, we're seeing them unravel now. And it's just, I just feel like we're just being manipulated so easily, and he's just a puppet, really. I mean,
which makes us other puppets.
Yeah, which is even worse because we're just feeding into that. And the more that we're like, oh, he tweeted this, the more he's going to tweet. You know what will stop him tweeting? No one caring. I mean, that's the only thing. All he wants is attention. All he wants is to be in the news every day, and he's achieving that. I don't know. It's
okay, on more lighter topics, you got married recently, right?
I did.
Word.
Yeah.
So you got married 10 days before I got married.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations. So, who's the lucky lady?
Kelly. That's her name. She's a nurse over in
She's a nurse?
Summerlin Hospital.
Awesome.
Yeah. The opposite profession to me.
That's usually how it works out.
It gives me a direct view into the medical industry in America, and it's fucking terrifying.
So how has being with you altered her?
Well, she, as you can imagine, I wouldn't be necessarily very compatible with somebody that was like, Western medicine. So she really is passionate about, bringing all the different, methods together to create some sort of holistic platform.
Cool. I love holistic better than alternative. Because it shouldn't be alternative.
In reality, there are really good things in Western medicine.
Yes, absolutely.
If I break a leg, I want to go and get it set in a cast. I don't want like crystals laying on it.
Absolutely.
Like, there are certain things, but
we need penicillin.
Yeah, but some, like cancer. Nah, I don't want to go anywhere near a hospital if I have cancer. So there are certain, but it isn't like that, and it's touches on what we were talking about earlier. It's like you either believe this, you either believe in the hospital or you don't. And I think that's a real shame. Like I'm inclined not to, so I don't have health insurance and I don't have all of this stuff, but that's scary as
It
well.
is
Like I could be
really
hit by
scary.
a bus and go bankrupt tomorrow.
Right.
Like in reality. So I think if we're more open to talking about these things and maybe more secure in the actual science behind stuff, because a lot of alternative stuff to me is just unknown science. A lot of it is scientific, but we just don't have the means to calculate it or quantify it. And a lot of
or it hasn't been backed up because
it
it's
hasn't been backed up because there's no suppressed, no funding,
Right.
no, who wants to fund $1,000 study on peppermint tea?
Yeah.
Like, no one. Like, but if it's like a patentable, whatever, they want to do it. And at the same time, a lot of the medical stuff isn't backed up by that much science, but people are under the assumption that it is.
But it's backed by money.
Yeah, and it's sad that you have to choose between sort of those two things, and there can't be more of an open dialogue. And the resistance that you get when you talk about some subjects, vaccines, talk to someone about vaccines, they lose their shit.
Yes,
I'm like,
that's
how many
true.
books have you read on vaccines?
Right.
None.
Right.
Like, how much research have you done? None. So why do you believe what you believe? Just because you're told that you need to believe it, and it's like dangerous, and it's like persecution. It's like total persecution.
But go listen to all sides before you make a discerning...
Yeah. Like, why should I be
Right.
made to feel guilty? Not for injecting myself, but you shouldn't for... I don't know. It's just absurd.
Yeah.
Like, when I first moved here, I did some bar work and I had to get my TAM card. And in order not to get the hepatitis vaccine, had to sign up to be a Christian Scientist. So it has to be on religious basis, right? So it can't. My
awesome.
basis is science, and like there isn't enough data out there. But religion could just be like, well, God told me not to do it, and everyone accepts that. It's absurd.
And it's tax exempt.
yeah, no, totally.
Awesome. You say you love beautifying all sorts of things. How do you choose a medium? I mean, do you mostly just spray paint, or what?
Well, my typical workflow, I like, on my phone I jot down phrases or things I see or ideas that I think might be good. And then on the computer, I typically illustrate them. Like, I have a drawing tablet on Illustrator and I do the illustrations. And then on social media, you'll see that illustration posted. And then I'll make a decision like, wow, do I want, or I'll put it as a vote, like, do I want stickers? Do I want it to be on a t-shirt, a print? Do I want a physical piece of art? Will it make a good physical piece of art? If I think it will, I'll cut the stencil. And then once the stencil's cut, then I'll be like, where shall I put the art? And I just collect things, different found objects, reclaimed pieces of wood, signs, and I'm like, I want to paint this. What would enhance the piece, or like give it more depth?
Do you remember your first piece for recycled propaganda?
I don't know.
No. How about the guy with the gas mask? When did he become?
He was one of the first designs I did.
Does he have a name, or no?
No, I didn't want to get personally attached to him. It's a piece of art. Well, and a lot of artists, and you'll notice, especially in Vegas, it seems like have a character and they get very like emotionally intertwined with it, and then you become sensitive about it. Like, it's just it's just one design. If it's successful, that's great, but I want to grow and move on. I don't want to like keep iterating that same thing.
It was cool though. I saw your photo shoot where you dressed up like him.
Oh, yeah.
That was rad. That was really cool. So we need to take a moment for our sponsors, and we'll be back with Izaac talking more about recycled propaganda.
Crazy Terry here with your car care tip of the day. Today's tips on cooling systems. This vehicle's got about 182,000 miles on it, so if you're checking the coolant, check the hoses too. Just feel them and see if they're soft or any signs of fatigue for the mileage on it. They don't feel bad. They look like they're still the original hose, but you want to make sure you don't go too long with these hoses because they will eventually deteriorate, cause a problem. In this case, this car's got a visible leak. The customer brought it to us. We'll pop the hood and check the cooling system. First, we just relieve any pressure might be on the cap. Remove the cap. Take a look inside. We see it's kind of low. Now we'll start our inspection. What we found on this one is the top tank is leaking. It's got a crack in it. Pretty common for these plastic radiators to do that. We want to get to a shop right away because severe engine damage can result from overheating condition like this. In this case, it was pretty easy to see the crack was right on the top tank, but a lot of times we'll have to pressurize the system to locate the exact leak. Could be a hose in the back, could be underneath. Some of these are hard to find, but in this case, a very common leak, the top tank. When we're testing a cooling system, it's okay to use just water, but you want to make sure when you're filling it up properly, it's a 50-50 mix of antifreeze and water. It needs the water to make the chemical work, so don't just put straight antifreeze. 50-50 mix is the best way to go. Keep it clean, keep it rust-free. So as you can see, we got a pretty active leak. You got to get this fixed or there's going to be some engine problems. If you're going to top off your own coolant, it's really not that hard. If you got a radiator cap, just make sure it's not hot. Take the cap off and take a look. In this case, we're pretty full here, but what we have is the overflow jugs empty. So we'll just add that. Once again, check your manufacturer's specs to make sure what type of coolant you have. In this case, we're using the good old green. There's gold, there's red, there's yellow, all types out there. Just want to make sure you're staying with your manufacturer recommended coolant. And that's really all there is to it. The cooling system is a major component. You'll want to service that regularly. If you have a problem, it could be too late and cost you thousands of dollars. If ever you have a problem, come into Sun Valley Automotive. It's no charge to look at your cooling system. This is Crazy Terry with your car care tip of the day.
Hello, welcome back to the Health and Wellness Hour. My name is Abra McGrath, and we're brought to you by WWDB TV. And we're here at Luminosity Wellness Center talking to Izaac Baron the fifth. You got to tell me about this name, okay? If you're the fifth,
It's all, no. I mean,
he's of recycled propaganda. That means there's a lot of power. There's a lot of power in a name,
yeah.
right?
It's a weird name, isn't it?
I mean, you got to say the whole thing, though. Come on.
Well, my first real name is Richard, which not many people.
Oh, okay.
But Izaac Baron Zevalking the fifth. But my grandma, so my dad's American and he's the fourth.
Okay.
And she came up to me like a while ago and was like, "Yeah, your dad isn't the fourth, he's the third. I just made a mistake on his birth certificate." And I was like, just proves to you that nothing means anything.
Nothing means
Who knows
anything.
what's true?
But it puts a lot of power in there.
Well, and I was thinking the other day, isn't it in, because when we got married, my wife was like, "Shall I change my name?" I was like, I couldn't care less. I don't care. And she was like, "How do you change your name?" I was like, "You just go down, as far as I know, to the courthouse and change it." She was like, "You can just change your name." I was like, "Change it to whatever you want." No one ever does. Weird, right?
Yeah.
I think more people would change their name.
Yeah, you'd think if they knew how easily and readily available
But then
it was.
what would you change it to? Is that why no one changes it? Because there's too many options.
Probably. Like, I'm going to be represented as, I don't know, cheeseburger or something like
That Friends episode, right? Where
right on. So, how many, you said you're going into a lot of digital. You come from a graphic design background. How many websites do you have? I Googled your name and I found your first and last name.com, and it just showed a guy on a card that looked like maybe a jester card.
Oh yeah.
And with the
king, yeah.
with the mask on and a spray can, and I was like, okay, do you press on this? Do you get to anywhere? It's like, nope, that was it. I was like, is it?
Well, I just want my name as my website. You don't know what people are going to put out there. You may as well have it, right? No, recyclepropaganda.com is just it for my art, basically.
Oh, okay.
I have stuff on other people's websites, but yeah.
Is that Killing My Career? Is that one of them?
Oh, is it Art Killing Apathy? Is that one? I have no clue.
No? Oh, okay. Someone, I guess they tagged you and put you in an article, and I was wondering if you were writing blogs or anything on
a lot
tangential,
of people a lot of people approach me and send me interviews or do Skype interviews and different stuff like that. So there's a lot of different content out there. There's quite a lot of different interviews with me talking about.
Oh, okay, because there was a lot of propaganda, and I was like, oh, maybe this is something, but that would make sense.
Yeah.
She probably just featured you. Cool. Another one was Empire Method. Have you heard of this? Crazy.
I don't Google myself.
It's probably smart.
I might now, but I don't want to go down that road,
Yeah. Okay, cool. Because, Anyway, how about you talk about, do you feel like you've made it as an artist? And if you feel like you've made it, how do you gauge that? And where do you want to go? What are the goals from here?
No is the answer, but I don't think any artist would ever say, yeah, I've made it. Because I think the way that as an artist your mind works, the way my mind works, is I'm just constantly thinking about what I'm going to do next. So I don't really give myself the sort of leisure time to be like, have I made it? What was my... And life's funny because you make certain goals or aspirations, and as soon as you've got there, you literally move the goalpost, and that's sort of just, I guess, the nature of us. So the sooner you can accept that, the more you can just take gratification in the process rather than thinking like I'm trying to get somewhere.
Well, what gives you that gratification? Like, I don't want to be petty and be like, oh, well, number of social media followers has expanded to 30,000.
I think that's always an impact, even if you don't want it to be. It's always nice to be validated, and that is a form of validation. But the more that you get that, the more you have to learn to rely on your own validation more. And more, like, someone the other day at First Friday was like a glass blower, and he said, well, how do you deal with criticism? And I said, I don't. Like, when it's done for me. You can say whatever you want about it. If I think it's done, it's done. A lot of the pieces that I put out, I don't think are done, but that's interesting as well. But it's up to me is the point. Is
that your own perfectionism, like, in your mind?
It's your critical eye, and if you don't have that critical eye and that sense of critique, you can never be, like, furthering your process. And I feel like I'm the harshest critic of my own work. I could tear all of my work apart, but that's what makes it progress and, get better. You can't have any sort of sensitivity to that. It's just a thing that you've made. It's not you, it's not your person, it's not your personality. It's just a piece of art. And if it doesn't work, that's good as well, because you learn from it. So
can you talk about your evolution, like who you were when you started Recycled Propaganda and who you are now?
Well, I think the thing that's always remained the same is the sort of desire and ambition to produce striking visuals that can be viewed or assessed in multiple different ways. And that ambiguity within the art has always been the thing that turned me on. I think if you looked at my work from the beginning to now, my process has got better in terms of my physical art production and my illustration skills, but it doesn't mean my work is better. It doesn't mean it was bad and now it's good. It's just different. It's just progressing, and within the future I don't want to be like this, especially within an artistic sense. I think it's dangerous to be like, this is what I want it to look at, because that has to be an organic process. Like, maybe in the future I'll do film or whatever, or who knows. You just have to keep producing and keep sort of your mind open to different possibilities. And I feel like if you just keep your sort of ear to the ground, we're so interconnected these days. You're presented with a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different avenues to explore. So the hardest part really is about what to explore, what not to explore, and how to use my time. That's the most difficult part within me, is like, okay.
Well, especially because this is your livelihood.
Correct. I mean, I get hit up to do a lot of events, and sometimes I'm just like, I only want to do like 1 or 2 a month.
Yeah.
Like, I can't, but I could do like freaking 3 a week, but that isn't what I need. Sometimes I do need to do art. Do need to do events so I can sell my work, but so I can meet people and feel like because sometimes if you isolate yourself too much, you sort of wonder, the impact of my work is important.
Right.
I don't mind if people like it or not, but if they really don't get it, have I failed? Maybe not, if that was the intention. But
so to stay relevant.
Yeah, to stay relevant. Yeah, I think so.
So how much do you have to dip yourself into, different fake news or different things? Do you limit yourself?
No, I don't like to I do some research on specific designs. If I've got like, I'm doing this design about wealth inequality, I will research like stats or quotes or things about it. But in general, I find a better way that I inform myself of my artwork is just staying informed, period. Just for me. nothing to do with my artwork. And luckily I'm a highly curious person, but if I just read books that I think are interesting, watch documentaries that I think are interesting, listening to music that I think are interesting, inspiration will strike.
And Thich Nhat Hanh says that everything he needs to learn will be eventually told to him.
Yeah.
He didn't ever have to watch TV or
Yeah.
anything because he felt like if it was worthy of him, not worthy like, you know what I mean, but if it was worth him knowing, eventually it would seep into his circle somehow.
And I think in modern society we almost have the opposite issue.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's more of an interesting thought to say, what do we not expose ourselves to,
Right.
rather than what are we exposing ourselves to.
Right.
Because
we got to put on the buffers. And
yeah,
the
we
blinders.
really, and you know
Yeah.
what I was going to say earlier, but I went tangential, is that since this new presidency, I've withdrawn a lot because it's too much. Like,
Right.
people are always like, you're so inspired, like, and I am in a way, but in a way I'm just like, whoa,
Inundated.
like, this is
Yeah.
too much. There's too much shit going on. We're about to get into nuclear war, all of this. I'm like, no, like, I just need to, like, put my buffers on, because there's a point to which you can overstimulate yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
And I find that
Yeah.
point, I reach that point almost every day. I feel like I'm inundated with information constantly. But that's good, you know? I think
Yeah.
I would prefer that than be like sitting, you know, craving the information.
Stimulated. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. I have like a zillion questions for you. It's so like, I'm really excited.
Do you want to do a quick fire round?
I do.
Okay, let's do
Okay,
it.
so this is
Sounds
called
fun.
the Proust. Have you heard of Proust questionnaire? So in the 1920s, he was a guy who developed a questionnaire. He was a writer, and this questionnaire kind of had to do with personality. And I loved it so much because Vanity Fair did it in like 2009. Trump was actually in that book. It's called Proust. But there are a lot of like artists and really cool people in there. Sting. I mean, you know, and so it's just a fire round. So
I'll try my best.
let's see. I had it bookmarked. Okay. So, let's see. So looking back on your life, say, I mean, even now, or if you want to think at the end of your life, what would you have wished you'd done more of?
Drugs, maybe? I don't know.
Psychedelics? Like, what do you think?
You know, I think I've learned young that, like, just do everything so there's nothing to regret. And I don't regret anything. So the lesson from that is just, like, do it all. And looking back on that, I would think I didn't really have time to do anything else. So, like, I did a good job. Like,
Right on. What is a trait that you deplore in yourself?
I mean, I try and stay quite positive, which that's a tough question.
But you said you're your biggest critic, so I mean, we're probably just the hardest on ourselves.
Probably
right?
pride, like getting to, and especially with the art, the hardest thing for me is just to be like, you know, have that separation like we were discussing earlier, and you
like
know,
it's good enough as it is. It's
yeah, well, to receive negativity and to twist that around to be positivity has like been the hardest thing for me to learn.
okay.
And to remove myself from emotionality, like in that sense,
And just be objective.
yeah, to try and be objective.
Okay.
So to have those reactions, I think I was a much more reactive person previously, and now I'm trying to learn to like not
Zen it
there's
out.
there's no point, like just
Right.
it is what it is, just make a, you know,
Listen to the perspective.
pragmatic decision.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, what's a trait you deplore in others?
I think a lot of people have a hard time listening and like actually taking on new information and like formulating it and approaching it with what they already think. And no one can really, it's hard to change your mind. I'm not going to say no one can, but and maybe this is a issue with me, but I feel like I've worked on it. It's like the ability to change your mind about something, I think should be a more common trait.
That's a great one. Most overrated virtue,
Just generally.
generally. So I'll give you some examples. Fran Lebowitz said abstinence.
Well, yeah, I'd agree with that.
And Ron Howard said trendiness, which I thought was interesting.
Huh. Yeah, maybe I'll come back to that one.
Okay. What is your most treasured possession?
My mind.
Awesome. Your greatest fear?
I want to say fear itself, but to be inhibited to do something because of fear, I think terrifies me.
Like road blocking yourself, right?
Yeah, like sabotaging yourself.
Yeah.
Or not
good one.
inaction to do with like worrying that something may happen.
Instead of just going with it.
Just do it, yeah.
What's a quality you love most in a woman?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No. That's a tricky one.
It's okay.
Well, I think
Kelly will be listening eventually.
To pull out like a singular quality, maybe. I think the opposite of my qualities is always important. Patience, maybe, would be a good one.
So Kelly's really patient?
She is patient, not talking a lot. She doesn't talk very much.
Really?
I think yin and yang, really, have always, I think, been important to me.
Awesome. And finally, do you have a motto? No. You write a lot of them.
Yeah, I do. I feel like I write them, but no, I don't have a motto. I didn't feel like that quick fire round went as good as it could have. But I'm maybe not very good with singular words.
It's fine. The last thing I was saying was it's said with the age of social media that our attention span has been cut in half. So does that mean pictures are worth only 500 words now?
Less, actually. I think in reality our attention span's probably been cut by like 99%. So yeah, maybe a picture now is worth 1 word.
Score.
But maybe a word is worth like 1/10 of a word. I don't know.
So you want to plug anything? You want to tell us about any upcoming events or what you're doing with any of the digital stuff or?
No, not really.
Are we good then?
There was one question I didn't answer. What was it?
Oh.
Let me think.
The one
about
we
this
got to go
again.
back to.
Yeah.
Your most, or the, not yours, but the most overrated virtue, like in people. I thought abstinence and
Maybe,
trendiness.
you know what,
amazing.
and this might be controversial, honesty.
Oh.
Because it's quite interesting when you meet people that just are lying. At least it's interesting, you know.
So honesty is overrated sometimes.
It's totally like people put such a price on it, but I don't know if people are really ever honest anyway. So why put a virtue on it?
And it can be a form of like being blunt. People are like proud of themselves being blunt.
Yeah, and that's what I mean.
That can be like disrespectful.
You're not. This
like,
is exactly,
yeah.
and I think that's what I'm trying to say. Like, because you're telling me my artwork shit doesn't make you like admirable because you're honest, right? Or just because you're like, oh, you're fat. Well, you know, and everybody thinks honesty's good, but in reality, if everybody said what they really felt to everybody, nobody would get along.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being on my show.
Thanks
I
for
really
asking
appreciate
difficult questions. Usually they're, you know, easy to answer.
Yay!
I engaged my brain today. So.
I was hoping I could be thought-provoking.
I'll email you in 2 days and be like, right, I have better answers. 1 through 10.
You're like, we like to just do it and shoot from the hip. I'm like, are you sure?
No, you know, because you realise stuff when you're talking, and everything I know is in my head. So, and sometimes when you write stuff out, it becomes like it isn't you at the current person, like in present, because it's you at home or last week or last month. So I like to, a lot of the stuff here's my disclaimer, you can probably watch other videos with me and I say opposite stuff from everything I've said today. But this is how I feel today, so accept
awesome.
it.
The evolution of Izaac, of recycled propaganda. Thank you so much for joining our Health and Wellness Hour, and hope to see you next week. Bye-bye.